Uninvited melody. Sofia Rivera clutched her worn violin case to her chest as she hurried up the marble steps of Mercer Hall. The evening air was crisp against her flushed cheeks, her dark curls escaping from a hastily secured bun. Her student Miguel had forgotten his sheet music after their lesson, and she knew how much tomorrow's recital meant to him. "It should be just inside," she muttered, checking her phone for his text. The grand doors were unexpectedly unlocked, gleaming brass handles cool against her palm. What Sofia hadn't anticipated was walking into the city's most exclusive charity gala. The foyer sparkled with crystal chandeliers reflecting off polished marble. Women in designer gowns floated by like exotic birds, their jewelry catching the light. Men in immaculate tuxedos clustered in conversation, champagne glasses in hand. Classical music drifted through the air. Vivaldi, played with technical precision but lacking soul, Sofia noted automatically. She froze, immediately aware of her mismatched outfit, a vintage floral dress paired with her comfortable teaching flats, her grandmother's pendant her only jewelry. She turned to leave when a voice called out from behind. "Excuse me, are you with the orchestra?" Sofia turned to face a man with thoughtful hazel eyes and a questioning smile. His tuxedo fit him perfectly, but something about his stance suggested he was as uncomfortable in this setting as she felt. "No, I'm just—" she began. "Lucas Bennett," he interrupted, extending his hand. "I organized tonight's event." His handshake was warm and firm. Up close, she noticed the slight crease between his brows, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sofia Rivera, I'm actually looking for some sheet music. My student left it after our lesson and—" "You teach music?" Interest sparked in his expression. "Violin, yes. At the Hope Center downtown." Recognition dawned on his face. "The program for underprivileged youth?" She nodded, pride momentarily overriding her embarrassment. 3 years now." A waiter approached with a tray of champagne. Lucas took 2 glasses, offering one to Sofia. "I'm familiar with your work," he said. "In fact, I believe your program is on our potential funding list for next quarter." Sofia nearly choked on her champagne. The Hope Center desperately needed that grant money. "Really?" she managed, fighting to maintain composure. "That would be transformative. Perhaps you'd like to stay? This event is all about connecting donors to worthy causes." Sofia hesitated. She didn't belong here among these wealthy patrons. Yet the possibility of securing funding for her students. "I'm hardly dressed for—" "Passion over appearance, Ms. Rivera," Lucas said, his expression softening. "Anyone can wear expensive clothes. Few can inspire children to create beauty in difficult circumstances." Something shifted between them, a recognition perhaps of kindred spirits despite their different worlds. "One condition," Sofia said impulsively. "Call me Sofia." His genuine smile transformed his face, erasing years of what she now recognized as carefully masked solitude. "Only if you'll critique our string quartet," he countered. "Something tells me you have opinions." Sofia laughed, surprised by his perception. "They're technically flawless, but playing without heart." "Just as I suspected." Lucas offered his arm. "Shall we make the rounds? I know several board members who would be moved by your program's mission." As Sofia placed her hand on his arm, she couldn't help but notice how naturally it rested there, as if some invisible thread had been connecting them long before this chance encounter. What was meant to be a quick errand had become something unexpected, a doorway to possibility, both for her students and, perhaps, for her heart. Discord and harmony. 3 weeks after the gala, Sofia paced nervously outside the gleaming glass headquarters of the Bennett Foundation. Her grant proposal for the Hope Center clutched tightly in her hands. She took a deep breath before pushing through the revolving doors. The receptionist directed her to the 32nd floor, where Lucas's assistant, a meticulously dressed woman with a perpetual frown, informed her that Mr. Bennett was running late. "Traffic," she explained, gesturing to a sleek waiting area. "He sends his apologies." Sofia sank into a chair, taking in the minimalist decor, all clean lines and muted colors, beautiful but somehow sterile. So different from her classroom's cheerful chaos. Walls covered with children's artwork, and mismatched chairs arranged in a perpetual semicircle. 40 minutes later, Lucas strode in, suit jacket slung over one shoulder. "Sophia, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting." "It's fine," she said, rising to greet him. "Though my students would never accept that excuse. We have a strict policy. Tardiness means playing scales for 10 extra minutes." A smile tugged at his lips. Perhaps the corporate world could benefit from such discipline. His office offered a panoramic view of the city, a vista of skyscrapers and distant parks, the whole world laid out in miniature. "Beautiful," Sophia murmured. "Isolating," Lucas countered, surprising her with his candor. "From up here, real life seems very far away." As they reviewed her proposal, their fundamental differences emerged. Where Sophia saw music as healing, Lucas focused on measurable outcomes. "The board needs metrics," he explained, tapping her budget page. "How does violin instruction translate to academic improvement?" "Not everything valuable can be quantified," Sophia argued. "Music gives these children something statistics can't capture. It gives them voice." Perhaps the board should meet Miguel," she interrupted. 11 years old, father deported, mother working 3 jobs. He couldn't speak for months after the trauma. Now he plays Mozart. Their eyes locked in silent challenge. Something flickered in Lucas's expression. Respect, perhaps. "The foundation has responsibilities to donors," he said more gently. "And I have responsibilities to my students," she countered. The tension between them crackled like electricity, neither backing down, both believing fiercely in their vision. "Come to dinner," Lucas said suddenly. "Tomorrow night." Sophia blinked, caught off guard by the abrupt shift. "I don't see how that helps my proposal." "It's not about the proposal. I'd simply like to continue our conversation. Somewhere less official." His vulnerability disarmed her. Beneath his corporate armor was someone genuine, someone curious. "I have lessons until 7, she found herself saying. 8 o'clock, then. I know a place that makes incredible paella." As she left, clutching his business card with the restaurant address scrawled on the back, Sophia wondered what she'd gotten herself into. This man represented everything she distrusted about institutional philanthropy, and yet she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him, like opposing notes creating unexpected harmony. The following evening, in a small Spanish restaurant tucked away in a neighborhood Lucas would normally never visit, they discovered common ground. Over candlelight and sangria, they shared stories, Lucas of his childhood piano lessons abandoned for business school, Sophia of the community orchestra that had saved her after her parents' deaths. "Music was my lifeline," she explained, twisting her napkin. "That's what I'm trying to give these kids." "My father called artistic pursuits impractical indulgences," Lucas admitted. "The family business was the only acceptable path." "And now you're the one deciding which indulgences deserve funding," Sophia observed. Lucas's hand reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "Perhaps I need someone to remind me what truly matters." The touch sent warmth cascading through her, a feeling both exhilarating and terrifying. As they walked to her subway stop afterward, shoulders occasionally bumping in the cool night air, Sophia realized that in Lucas, she'd found both an adversary and an ally, someone who challenged and intrigued her in equal measure. When they parted, his lips brushed her cheek, lingering just long enough to make her wonder what might happen if she turned her face toward his. Instead, she stepped back, offering a smile that contained both promise and caution. "Good night, Lucas Bennett," she whispered. "I still expect that grant." His low chuckle followed her down the subway stairs, a rich counterpoint to the quickening rhythm of her heart. Crescendo. Rain drummed against the windows of Sophia's apartment as she readied herself for Lucas's arrival. After weeks of professional meetings interspersed with not-quite dates, he had invited her to the symphony. But a thunderstorm had forced a change of plans. "We could reschedule," he'd offered over the phone. "Or," she'd suggested impulsively, "I could play for you instead." Now, lighting the last candle, Sophia surveyed her modest living space. Bookshelves overflowed with sheet music, plants crowded the windowsills, and photographs of her students covered one wall. It was nothing like Lucas's penthouse, which she'd glimpsed in a magazine feature, all leather and chrome, curated by some nameless designer. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Lucas stood in her doorway, raindrops glistening in his hair, a bottle of wine in one hand and a small, wrapped package in the other. "I brought reinforcements," he said, shaking water from his coat. "In case your playing is terrible." She laughed, taking the wine. "Your confidence is overwhelming." "And this," he added, handing her the package, "is just because." Inside was a leather-bound notebook, the cover embossed with musical notes. "For composing," Lucas explained. "You mentioned wanting to write your own pieces." "You remembered," she said softly, touched by his thoughtfulness. As the storm raged outside, Sophia played for Lucas. First Bach, then Paganini, finally improvising melodies that reflected the rain's rhythm. He watched from her worn sofa, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, utterly absorbed in her performance. When she finally lowered her bow, the silence between them hummed with unspoken feelings. "That was—" Lucas searched for words. "You play as if the music is coming from somewhere inside you." "That's the only way to play," she said, setting down her violin and joining him on the sofa. "Technical skill means nothing without emotion behind it." "Is that what you think I lack?" "Emotion." His question hung in the air between them. Sophia turned to face him, struck by the vulnerability in his expression. "I think you've buried it," she said carefully. "But I see it sometimes when you talk about your foundation's work. When you forget to be Lucas Bennett, CEO." His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "And who should I be instead?" "Just Lucas," she whispered. "The man who brings surprise gifts and listens to violin concertos in candlelight." The space between them seemed to contract, the air charged with possibility. When he leaned forward, she met him halfway, their lips finding each other with gentle curiosity that quickly deepened into something more urgent. His hands cradled her face as if she were precious, breakable. Hers gripped his shoulders, solid and real beneath her fingertips. The kiss spoke of weeks of tension finally breaking, of barriers crumbling between their separate worlds. When they pulled apart, breathing uneven, Lucas rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that since you criticized my string quartet." Sophia laughed softly. "I was right about them, you know." "You're right about many things," he admitted, tucking a curl behind her ear. "Including me." The storm outside had quieted, leaving only the gentle patter of raindrops and the sound of their mingled breath. As Lucas pulled her closer, Sophia felt something shifting inside her, caution giving way to trust, doubt to possibility. Later, as they lay tangled together on her narrow sofa, Lucas traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "The board approved your grant today," he murmured against her hair. "Full funding!" Sophia sat up, clutching the throw blanket to her chest. "Lucas, if this—" She gestured between them. "If this influenced that decision—" "It didn't," he said firmly. "Your proposal won on its merits. I actually recused myself from the final vote." Relief flooded through her, followed by a wave of affection so strong it almost frightened her. This man, who had seemed so unreachable weeks ago, had become essential to her happiness. As midnight approached, they shared whispered confessions and gentle touches, building a bridge between their different lives. When Lucas finally prepared to leave, he paused at her door. "Play for my birthday gala," he said. "Next month. Let my world hear what I've been fortunate enough to discover." Sophia smiled, warmth blooming in her chest. "Only if you'll dance with me afterward." His answering kiss was both a promise and a seal, marking the beginning of something neither had expected to find. Broken Strings. The Bennett Foundation's annual birthday gala transformed Mercer Hall into a wonderland of white orchids and silver accents. Sophia stood backstage, fingers trembling slightly as she tuned her violin. In the 6 weeks since that rainy night, her relationship with Lucas had deepened into something that felt remarkably like love, though neither had spoken the word aloud. Tonight would be different. Tonight she would play the composition she'd written for him, pouring her feelings into the notes she couldn't yet voice. "5 minutes, Ms. Rivera," a stagehand informed her. Sophia nodded, taking a deep breath. Her black gown, borrowed from a friend who performed with the Philharmonic, felt foreign against her skin. She belonged in jeans and sweaters, not couture. But for Lucas, she wanted to shine. As she waited, she overheard voices from the adjacent hallway. "Can't believe Bennett is featuring some community teacher," a woman said dismissively. "Charlotte must be furious." "Well, they do say he met her when she crashed this very event last year," another voice replied. "Apparently she was looking for handouts for her little charity project. How convenient. Show up uninvited, leave with funding and the CEO." Laughter followed, cutting through Sophia like glass. "I heard the board nearly revolted when he pushed through her grant proposal." Sophia's heart thundered in her chest. Had Lucas lied about recusing himself? Had he manipulated the board? "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC's voice boomed from the stage, "please welcome violinist Sofia Rivera." Somehow she made it to center stage. Somehow her bow found the strings. The music flowed, but her mind raced elsewhere. Across the sea of faces, she found Lucas, his expression wrapped with pride. The sight, once heartwarming, now twisted painfully in her chest. When the applause faded and she made her way to Lucas's side, his arms opened to embrace her. "That was magnificent," he whispered against her hair. "You captivated everyone." She stepped back, maintaining distance. "We need to talk." Concern shadowed his features. "What's wrong? Did you pressure the board to approve my grant?" Lucas blinked, confusion evident. "What?" "No, I told you I recused." "People are saying I crashed your event deliberately, that I manipulated you." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Sophia, you can't believe—" "What I believe," she interrupted, "is that I need the truth. All of it." A tall woman in a striking emerald gown approached, resting a manicured hand on Lucas's arm. "Darling, the Hendersons are asking for you." Her gaze swept over Sophia with practiced indifference. "Lovely performance, quite passionate." "Charlotte, this isn't a good time," Lucas said stiffly. "Charlotte Bennett," the woman clarified to Sophia, diamond bracelet catching the light as she extended her hand. "Lucas's sister-in-law, board chair." Sophia nodded mechanically, pieces clicking into place. This was the Charlotte who must be furious. "I was just telling Lucas how curious everyone is about how you two met," Charlotte continued, voice honey-sweet with underlying venom. "Crashing our charity event, how enterprising." "I didn't crash anything," Sophia said, her voice tight. Charlotte's eyebrow arched. "No, Lucas told the board quite a charming story about finding you wandering our event uninvited." Sophia's eyes snapped to Lucas, who looked suddenly pale. "You told them what?" "It wasn't like that," he began. "I explained about your students' music, but you knew I wasn't supposed to be there. You knew, and you used that story to, what? Convince them I was some worthy charity case? Sophia, please, did you recuse yourself from the vote?" she demanded. His hesitation was answer enough. "I see." Sophia gathered her dignity around her like armor. "Thank you for clarifying, Ms. Bennett." As she turned to leave, Lucas caught her arm. "Let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," Sophia said quietly. "I was a project to you, the passionate music teacher who needed saving. How noble of you to help." Pulling away, she navigated through the crowd, vision blurring with unshed tears. Outside, the night air hit her like a slap, cold and clarifying. Her violin case clutched to her chest, the only thing truly hers in this glittering false world. She walked away from Mercer Hall for what she believed would be the last time. Back in her apartment, Sophia removed the gown and stood under the shower until the hot water ran cold, as if she could wash away the humiliation. In the days that followed, Lucas called repeatedly. He sent flowers, notes, even appeared at her door, but she refused to see him. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing how deeply she had fallen for him, how easily she had believed they could bridge their different worlds. How foolish she had been to think someone like Lucas Bennett could ever see her as an equal, not a cause. When the Hope Center received confirmation that their grant remained secure regardless of personal circumstances, Sophia recognized Charlotte's calculating hand. The money would help her students, but the victory felt hollow now, tainted by secrets and half-truths. Perfect cadence. Rain pattered against the windows of the Hope Center's main classroom as Sophia guided Miguel through a particularly challenging passage of Vivaldi. 6 months had passed since the gala disaster, bringing autumn leaves and cooler temperatures. But the ache in her chest remained constant, a phantom pain where Lucas had been. "Ms. Rivera." "Someone's watching," Miguel whispered. Nodding toward the doorway, Sophia turned, her heart stuttering at the familiar silhouette. Lucas stood hesitantly at the threshold, rain darkening his shoulders, looking more uncertain than she had ever seen him. "Finish practicing those 16th notes," she instructed Miguel, struggling to keep her voice steady. "I'll be right back." In the hallway, Lucas and Sophia faced each other like cautious combatants, the air between them heavy with unspoken words. "You look well," he offered. "Why are you here, Lucas?" He ran a hand through his damp hair. "The children's concert tomorrow. Charlotte mentioned your students are performing." "Your sister-in-law seems unusually interested in our program lately," Sophia observed. Since their confrontation, Charlotte had become an unexpected ally, regularly visiting the center and championing their work to other donors. "She admires integrity," Lucas said simply. "Even when it costs her personally." Sophia crossed her arms. "That doesn't explain why you're here." "I've tried calling, writing." His voice dropped. "I miss you, Sophia." The raw honesty in his tone threatened to unravel her defenses. "You lied to me." "Not about what mattered," he countered. "Not about how I felt." "How I still feel?" From the classroom came the halting notes of Miguel's violin, bravely attempting the difficult passage. "I need to get back to my student," Sophia said. Lucas nodded, resignation in his eyes. "Will you at least let me attend tomorrow?" To hear them play? She should refuse. Should protect herself from the pain his presence inevitably caused. Instead, she heard herself say, "It's a public event." Something like hope flickered across his face. "Thank you." The following evening, the Hope Center's modest auditorium filled with families, community members, and a surprising number of suits, board members, and donors. Sophia realized, recognizing faces from Lucas's world. Backstage, the children fidgeted in their concert attire, nervousness and excitement creating a palpable energy. Miguel, their reluctant soloist, looked pale beneath his olive complexion. "I can't do it, Ms. Rivera," he whispered. "Everyone's watching." Sophia knelt beside him. "Remember what I taught you about stage fright? Play for one person," he recited. "Someone who matters." "That's right." She adjusted his bow grip. "Find that person in the audience and forget everyone else exists." As the children took their positions, Sophia scanned the crowd from the wings. Lucas sat beside Charlotte in the third row, his expression a study in controlled anticipation. When the music began, imperfect but heartfelt, she watched his face soften, genuine emotion replacing his usual careful mask. The children played their way through Mozart and Vivaldi, stumbling occasionally but recovering with the resilience Sophia had nurtured in them. When Miguel stepped forward for his solo, panic flashed in his eyes. His gaze darted frantically across the audience until it locked with Lucas's. To Sophia's astonishment, Lucas gave the boy an encouraging nod. Miguel straightened, raised his violin, and played, not with technical perfection but with undeniable feeling. The melody soared through the modest space, transforming it into something sacred. At the reception afterward, Sophia was surrounded by congratulatory parents when Charlotte appeared at her elbow. "Remarkable progress," she approved. "The board is impressed." "Thank you for bringing them," Sophia replied cautiously. Charlotte's perfectly made-up face softened slightly. "Lucas was right about you. About your work." She glanced across the room, where Lucas stood deep in conversation with Miguel. "He's different since meeting you. Better." Before Sophia could respond, Charlotte continued. "He never told the board you crashed the event to gain advantage, you know. He told us he'd met an extraordinary teacher whose passion reminded him why we do this work. The uninvited part was my embellishment that night. I wanted to see if you were after his position or his heart." "And your conclusion?" Sophia asked. Charlotte smiled thinly. "I no longer object to his choice, though you might want to hear the full story from him." With a meaningful glance toward Lucas, she glided away. As the crowd thinned, Lucas approached, hands in pockets. "Your students were wonderful, especially Miguel." "He found his person to play for," Sophia said softly. "I'd like to think I found mine too," Lucas replied, his meaning unmistakable. "Would you walk with me, please?" Outside, the autumn air was crisp with possibilities. They strolled in silence until reaching a small park where a street musician played jazz on a weathered saxophone. "I should have told you everything," Lucas began, "about how I described our meeting to the board, about not fully recusing myself." "I was afraid of what?" Sophia prompted when he hesitated. "That you'd think I only funded your program because of my feelings for you. Or worse, that you only cared for me because of what I could do for your students." Sophia stopped walking. "Is that what you believe?" "No," he said quickly. "Not anymore. These months without you have clarified many things." He took a deep breath. "I love you, Sophia. Not as a project or a cause, but as the remarkable woman who reminds me daily what truly matters." The declaration hung between them, both terrifying and exhilarating. "I've been writing music again," she admitted. "Pieces about loss, about hope. I'd like to hear them," he said carefully. "If you'd let me." Sophia studied him, this man who had upended her life, who represented everything she'd once distrusted about wealth and power, yet who had proven himself capable of growth, of listening, of change. "I've missed you too," she confessed. "But we can't go backward. If there's any future for us, it has to be built on complete honesty." Lucas reached for her hand, his touch achingly familiar. "I'd like to try. Perhaps we could start with dinner?" Sophia smiled, feeling something long knotted within her begin to unravel. "I'd prefer music first. Something we create together." 1 year later, Mercer Hall hosted a different kind of gala, a fundraiser for arts education featuring performances by students from centers across the city. On stage, Sophia and Lucas performed a duet they had composed together, her violin and his rediscovered piano skills, creating something neither could have achieved alone. In the front row, Miguel watched with pride, his own composition scheduled to debut later in the program. As the final notes faded into applause, Lucas turned to Sophia, his eyes reflecting all they had built together, trust reconstructed, differences embraced, love deepened through honest struggle. "Perfect cadence," he whispered, using the musical term they had come to see as symbolic of their journey, a resolution that felt both inevitable and miraculous. Later that night, beneath a sky scattered with stars, Lucas knelt on the rooftop garden of the newly expanded Hope Center, a joint project combining his business acumen and her artistic vision. "Some symphonies," he said, opening a small velvet box, "are meant to play for a lifetime." As Sophia's joyful acceptance rang clear in the night air, both recognized that their greatest composition was just beginning, a harmony of two distinct melodies, creating something more beautiful together than either could alone.